Yo, what up, what up, what up? I know I've been gone for a while. I've been really busy working and stuff like that. I've been doing my family thing and stuff. So, I'm gonna jump right into this video straight up. Let's get it going. Alright, this video's, it's about graffiti versus street art. See, a lot of people think that graffiti and street art is the same thing, but in reality, it's actually two different things. Uh, and that's the thing that people don't understand, that when they see graffiti on the wall versus somebody that did, like, you can say like some type of mural or something like that, that it's the same thing. And that's where they're wrong. As far as, you know graffiti and street art is, for me, in my opinion, since I've been in, around the graffiti scene for a long time, um it's two-way. It's two different things. You can't really compare the two. Yeah, you use spray paint and you use, similar, art supplies that you do use, as far as using graffiti to create art, street art, what they call it. But a lot of people get a mistake and they say, oh yeah, look, you know look at that dude is a street artist or this and that. But in reality, they don't know that person is actually a graffiti writer. So that's what today's topic is going to be about: graffiti versus street art. So let's do a quick tag. So graffiti versus street art. Just quick tags. So graffiti versus street art. There we go. That's what this video is going to be about. So now let's get into it. Just like I said earlier, a lot of people getting mixed up. So we're going to clear these things up. Alright, so let's get it. Alright. So now, in my opinion, since I've been, writing graffiti since, I don't know, for a long time. I want to say the early 2000s, late 90s, like 1998, 1999, and then 2000 and on. But I started off doing illegal graffiti, and the way I started out was, it was just simple tags, catching tags. And then I moved up from a tag to doing little throwies, and then from little throwies to doing, little throwies is like, let me see, I think, or little bombs and stuff like that. I moved up on to doing burners, so for those who don't know what a throwy is, or a bomb is something like this, So yeah, I moved up from doing tags, tags, to throwies or bombs, and then I moved up to doing burners and pieces, and then up to, like, big mural projects and stuff like that. But everything that I did do illegal, I pretty much paid the consequences for. I did my time. Everything that I have done as far as illegal wise go, I pretty much pay my dues. And that illegal graffiti, that can get you into a lot of trouble. Growing up, that was my thing. Doing, going out there catching tags, bombing, hitting anything and everything I possibly could. And that's the difference. That's from that's a difference, a big difference between graffiti and street art. Because as a graffiti writer, you were out there late nights, sneaking out of your house as a youngster. That's what I was doing, sneaking out of the house, backpacks, packing backpacks, cans in the backpacks, lap tags, markers. Anything that I can get my hands on that I can paint with, I had it. Shoe polishes, I would empty them out and, put paint supplies up in there. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun stuff, but also there's a lot of things that came with that, with that territory. The graffiti writer, they had it, we actually had it pretty tough versus a street artist, because graffiti writer, you pretty much did everything illegally. There's nothing really legal about it. If you caught a spot, it was all legal, and the things that we had to deal with as far as that goes was, as a graffiti writer, we had to deal with, being chased by the cops, number one. Number two, if you lived in a, pretty bad area, neighborhood, like, people like to call it the ghetto or whatever. So that's the neighborhood right there. If you live in that area, you know, you got to deal with the gangbangers too. So not only were we dealing with cops running away from cops, but we were dealing with gangbangers, you know, and there was a lot of stuff that came with that, you know. But at the end of the day, you know, it's two different things, graffiti and street art, because street artists don't do the same thing as graffiti writers did, you know, or sorry, not do, they did not go through the same things as graffiti writers went to, like me. You know, a street artist wasn't jumping out their fences to running away from cops and helicopters and you know, the canine dogs and all that. These street artists, they weren't going through all that, you know. Some of these street artists, actually, I had heard that they were actually going to classes and learning how to hold a can and how to do certain, you know, lines and how to do this, how to do that with a can. You know, they had to go to school for that, you know. And they weren't running away from cops. They weren't being chased from canines. They weren't, you know, they weren't out there being chased and shot at by gangbangers and none of that stuff. Street artists, they didn't go through none of that, you know. So at least, you know, at least the ones that I've met, you know, I ran into a couple at a couple street artists at different shows and stuff like that. And, you know, don't get me wrong, you know, I ain't got nothing against street art. Hey, you know, that's what you do. That's all good and shit, you know. But as far as that goes, it's like a lot of people think that these two are the same thing, and it's not. It's two separate, way two separate things. So graffiti writer, you know, you start from the bottom all the way till you get to the top, which, you know, starting, you know, the first thing that you do is learn how to do is tags, right? So the first thing you do is tags. And the second thing would be, you know, throwies. And then the third thing would be bombs. The fourth thing would be burners. And the fifth thing would be pieces. And then the sixth thing would be, what was it? Murals. Yeah, sorry, almost blanked out right there. Murals. So that's, you know, pretty much the graffiti writer, you know, where you start off. You know, that's where I started. Tags, throwaways, bomb, burners, pieces, and murals. You know, I have done a couple legal spots, or more than a couple actually, with a few pieces and stuff like that. I don't know if they're still running, but yeah. See, and as a street artist, you know, what these guys do, they don't, I mean, as far as the ones I met, they don't really do all this. They don't do tags. They don't do throwaways. They don't. Yeah, they do. They got the little tags and stuff, but nothing crazy. You know, they don't really go through the throwaways, bombs, burners, pieces. They do murals. That's their thing. You know, so murals is what they do. That's what these guys really stick to. You know, but that's why sometimes I kind of get upset when people start saying, oh, graffiti writer and, you know, street artist, it's the same thing, you know, they do the same and this and that. No, just because they both use a spray can and they both use markers and art supplies to get down and stuff like that doesn't mean it's the same thing. That's where they got it very wrong. It's not the same thing, you know, because like I explained earlier, graffiti writers, you know, go through all the dirt. You know, you start off on the gutter and you work your way to the top. You know, there's still some graffiti writers I know that, you know, they're still out there, you know, and they're pretty dope. You know, they're doing a lot of art, you know, and those guys are more or less the guys that I really, you know, I respect. You know, don't get me wrong, I respect street artists too, but there's a different level of respect, you know, versus a graffiti writer versus a street artist. Because you know, the graffiti writer, pretty much we run through the whole everything, you know, through the whole everything. You know, you got the cops, like I said earlier, you got the gangbangers, you got a lot of stuff that we run into. You know, you jumping into a fence to get away from the cops, you know, little do you know that in that yard there's a big dog and they're waiting for you, you know. So there you go. That's one of the situations that, you know, for example, this guy, street artist, they're not going to run into that because they've never experienced that. They've never been out in the field like that. You know, they just learned from school or from liking other artists' stuff, and they just created their own little style and they moved on with it. And that's how they became a street artist, you know. And hey, that's all cool. More power to them. You know, I'm not hating. There's a lot of dope ass street artists out there, like I said, you know. But for the most part, it's two different things, and at least that's how I feel. That's my opinion, because I come from a graffiti writer background. I don't come from a street art. I didn't start at a school, or I didn't went out and, oh, that looks pretty cool, I'm gonna start doing stuff like that and this and that. No, I started out with the raw stuff: tags, throwaways, bombs, and burners. That's what it is. And this is where it still's at. There's still a lot of graffiti writers out there doing all of this stuff right here, they're pretty legit and they're pretty dope, if you ask me. And I gotta give it to them. Graffiti writers, for me, that's where the evolution began. First, these guys, street art. Graffiti started, and then the evolution evolved for these guys, street art. Of course, you had street art before. Like, you had Frida Kahlo. For me, she's like, man, hands down to her. If some of you guys don't know who Frida Kahlo is, you guys should look up her movie. She's a great artist. She, for me, was like an artist. She started doing art and stuff like that. Like, it's a badass movie. You guys gotta check that movie out if you guys haven't seen it. If you guys are into rather street art or graffiti, you're gonna like it either way. But yeah, that's what it is. A lot of people are thinking, oh yeah, this guy, this graffiti writer and this and that, tagging on the wall, that's retarded and this and that. Oh, but look at this project over here. Oh, that looks nice. That's a nice mural over here. But little do they know that this guy that's doing all the tags on the side of the mural, he's the one who did the piece. With the big car and the sunset coming down, and then you got the palm trees in the back, the beach scenery and stuff like that. Well, guess what? The graffiti writer did that mural that you're talking about, not a street artist. So you can't really look down upon this, because this was the fundamentals, and this is where it all began in the graffiti scene. That's where it all started. And then then you got the people evolving into street art and stuff like that. So those are my thoughts as far as graffiti versus street art. A lot of people think different. A lot of people have their own opinions, and they would say, oh, nah, street art is better than graffiti, and graffiti is better than street art. But at the end of the day, for me, art is art regardless. That's just how I see it. But I have different respects of level for graffiti writers versus street artists. Because street artists didn't earn this title. They didn't have to go through all that. They weren't out there running, putting their name up, and let's see who can get up more, and let's see who can catch more tags, let's see who can bomb the city, let's see who can catch more billboards, let's see who can catch more heavens, freeway spots, all that. These guys, street artists, did not go through all that. Graffiti writers did, and they're still going through it. And then you got the battles that come up. Oh, you know what, so and so lined me, we gotta go and line him back. And then you start battling, going back and forth, going at it with each other. Street artists, they don't go do that. As far as I know, these guys don't go out there and catching heavens and freeway spots and bombing buses and scribes and all that other stuff. These guys don't do that. So with that being said, that's my opinion on graffiti writers versus street art. Maybe somebody else will say something different, maybe, because there's plenty of videos out there if you look them up, graffiti versus street art, and everybody has their own opinion on it. But as far as my opinion goes, graffiti is like, that's the roughest, toughest sport out there, because you gotta deal with a lot out there. You're not a street artist, just your wall is not legal. You're not going out there and, oh yeah, in the middle of the night and catching a freeway spot and it's legal. Nah, like, that's not how it goes. For the most part, everything that you do as a graffiti writer, most of it is illegal. And yeah, you graffiti writers do have some spots that are legal spots, because I've had some spots that are legal spots. You can just walk up and just rattle up your can and start spraying it up, handling your business and stuff like that. But as far as that goes, that's like, that's still, you're still a graffiti writer. You still don't change the fact that you're a graffiti writer because you're hitting up a legal spot. No, I've hit up plenty of legal spots and I'm still a graffiti writer. In the legal sense, I guess I can't really do that illegal stuff no more due to some situations that I went through and stuff like that. So but I'm still a writer. It still don't change the fact that I'm a graffiti writer, because this is where I started and this is where I'm still at. I'm not a street artist. Yeah, I got some pretty dope art and stuff like that. I guess you can say it's decent, you know, but I'm not a street artist. This is what I am. I'm a graffiti writer. I'm a graph head, straight up, you know. And that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about on this video, you know. And so like I said, you know, if you guys feel some type of way or different about it or about this subject, or hey, you know what, I don't think you're right, or you might be wrong. Look, I'm not disrespecting street art at all. You know, there is some dope artists out there, you know, but the only thing that I do get upset is because some of these guys, the street artist guys, they try to claim that they're graffiti, you know, the graffiti writers. They try to say, I ran into a couple at, like I said earlier, at a couple art shows, and one of the dudes was saying, oh yeah, I was a graffiti writer and this and that, you know, and we got to talking and stuff like that. And then it turned out we're like, you know, I got his name and we were talking and stuff like that. Somebody else walked up and, you know, they kind of knew him, they kind of knew me, like a mutual friend, I guess you can say. And that mutual friend pretty much put the street artist on you know, on point and said, hey man, you're not a graph head. You know, when you were out there with us, you were just chilling with us. You weren't really out there painting like we were doing all this graffiti and stuff like that. You were just chilling with us. You were hanging out with us. You weren't really out there active in the field, you know, out there painting hot spots and, you know, hitting freeway ledges and all that. You know, like you weren't doing none of that, you know, like doing all that good stuff. So how can you try to sit here and try to claim that you're a graph head, you know, or a graffiti writer, versus, you know, when what you actually do is just art, you know, street art. So you can't, you know, you can't say you're a graffiti writer, you know. And that artist, the street artist, pretty much like, oh yeah, my bad, dude, you know. He pretty much broke it down and said, yeah, you know, I'm sorry, I apologize, I was very wrong, you know, you're right, you know. So that just goes to show that, you know, a couple out there think that they're really graffiti writers and they think that they started here, when in reality they just started here, you know. And that's a vast, it's a vast difference for me, you know. But like I said, you know, that's just what it is, you know. You know, graffiti is where I first started, and that's what it is, you know. I'm not gonna sit there and call graffiti street art, because graffiti is graffiti, whether it's a bomb, a tag, a throwaway, a burner, a piece, or a mural. It still started here. You know, it didn't start here because some of these guys here had to go to school just to learn how to hold a spray can, or how to put angles and certain stuff, or how to, you know, spray like you know, certain details and stuff like that. These guys went to school for that. Some of them didn't. Some of them just learned on their own, you know. But these guys here, we learn everything on our own most often. There's some of us that we learn from other people that were already doing it for a while, like older homeboys, you know, that were doing it, and we learn from them, you know. They told us different tricks and stuff like that, but we learned out in the street, you know. We didn't learn excuse me, we didn't learn, you know, in school or anything like that. And we just, you know, learned out just how it goes out in the neighborhoods, and learning everything, you know, from, you know, catching bugs, practicing on black bugs, catching tags and everything, and just so forth, and moved on up, you know. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the day. That's what I wanted to talk about. So like I said, if you guys feel anything that you guys want to say on this subject, go ahead and drop it in the comment section below, and I'll try to get back to you guys as soon as I can. You know, like I said, I've been working a lot, so it's been kind of tough to drop a video, but I'll be dropping a couple videos soon. A couple of graffiti videos, and hopefully you guys like this video. You know, give it a thumbs up, you know, share, like, subscribe, hit the little bell right there, so that way you guys can you know, get a notification when I get a next video going up and stuff like that. Thanks again for tuning in. Thanks for watching. I know it became a little bit of a long video, longer than I wanted it to be. But alright, man, you guys have a good one. Catch you guys next time.